Hey gang, real quick, just wanted to remind you of my new self-care coaching service. Y'all go back and listen to episode 31 for all of the details, but this is my way of giving back to you all, my community, and sharing what I've been doing with my Whole 30 clients for the past couple of years. We always have done some type of self-care coaching, and I thought, why not offer it to everybody? So check out the show notes. You can see all the details there. It's pretty much a 30-minute video call with me. It's $25. Just skip Starbucks a couple of times. But what we're going to do is take you through my proven 3-tier self-care system and help you create a simple and sustainable self-care routine. But then we'll also go into some strategies together to talk about how to actually do the thing, not just do it and shove it in a drawer somewhere, but actually start doing this self-care routine, habit stacking on things you're already doing throughout the day until all of a sudden this turns into an ingrained habit that you just crave every day and turns you into the best version of yourself, so you know you can help be that best version for everyone else. So check out my show notes to sign up. I was giving away a few free spots. I may have some left. Just send me a message if you're interested, and let's get into today's episode. Hey friend, welcome to the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I'm your host, Emily Nichols. As a Whole 30 certified coach, wife, busy working boy mom, and your self-care guru, I'm here to help you start putting yourself first without the guilt. Each week you'll hear motivating and practical tips on how you can create a habit of self-care through interviews with my amazing guests or quick solo episodes with me. After each episode, you'll walk away with an action plan and feel empowered to implement what you have learned into your life. So grab a cup of coffee, glass of wine, or your favorite sparkling water, and let's do this. You're listening to episode 32 of the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I have a real treat for you today. My guest is my new friend, Bri Dimit, and she is a storytelling musician and speaker. Doesn't that sound cool? It is really cool. I'll tell you a little bit about Bri in a moment, but I wanted to bring her on because I think there's so much value and worth in being creative as a form of self-care, and what she does is such a creative outlet. But also, like the title of the show entails, she helps people share their story through her music. And I think there's so much value in just owning your story, authentically sharing it, and how we're all kind of connected in some way. So let me tell you a little bit about Bri. Like I said, she's a storytelling musician and speaker. So what that means is she interviews individuals based on their experiences and shares those stories along with her own experiences as well through her music. So she takes a moment in time or a feeling or a struggle, and she sheds light on strength and power in those moments. And that's pretty much her mission. She actually just released a new single with our friend Eve Guzman, who was on episode 11 of the show, called Do It Afraid. And it's so good. But you can find Bri's music on any streaming download music platform like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, etc. But she's here local to Indianapolis. She just left her full-time job and is speaking and sharing all around Indianapolis ways that you can share your story and own it. She'll actually be at Linking Indie Women on Wednesday, March 18th. I just grabbed my ticket this morning. Make sure you do as well if they're not already sold out. I'm really excited to hear her speak and share her story and live in her truth. So sit back and relax. Make sure you stick around to the end of the show. As always, I'll share my 3 biggest takeaways so you can take action on this form of self-care in your life right away. But let's go. I'm so excited for you to hear this awesome conversation with Bri Dimit. All right, gang, let's welcome Bri Dimit to the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. Bri, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I think it's so interesting and something that I'm not very skilled at. So I love to hear more from your perspective. But as you know, I ask all my guests this very first question. So Bri, what does self-care mean to you?
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, self-care really is a practice that provides ourselves the energy to keep going. So for me, my self-care practice can entail designating time in my day to do absolutely nothing. It may include having a good cup of coffee in the morning. But ultimately, I would say that my favorite self-care practice would be working through the storytelling musician process.
Mm.
Um, Self-care is, I feel like, is really unique to each one of us as individuals and is a practice that helps fill our cup. And I believe a common misconception with self-care is that it's something we have to do alone. And that's not always the case. I mean, that's why the storytelling musician process is probably my favorite self-care practice, because what really fills my cup is being able to create a space for individuals to authentically share their experiences without any judgment, criticism, or opinion, and where they can really just show up and share as themselves.
Like you said, it's all about energy, and I'm sure that energizes you like no other.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's talk about what you do a little bit. You are a storytelling musician. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what that means and how you got to that place?
Yeah. So, storytelling musician. So, I essentially have a 3-step process. So, I interview individuals in the community and on their life experiences. And then I ultimately share those experiences and those stories through my music. And um, so it starts with an interview where I sit down for, it's typically about 45 minutes. It can be face to face or virtual. And from there, I will take notes. It's really about me just listening through that process and having individuals share. And then I will start songwriting like the day after, because I'm usually just really excited. Um, and then it's about a 4-month process from that initial interview to the song reveal, and I get it professionally recorded and produce it, and it's typically available on all streaming and downloading platforms. So like Spotify, iTunes, everything. Um, so how I got started, I would say initially, I've always been songwriting ever since I can remember. That's kind of been my way of communicating and coping. So it's kind of been, it started as my own personal outlet. And as I've grown up, I have met some incredible people that I realized for so long, I feel like I felt like I was alone. And so I kind of used music to be like my partner in crime in life, in a sense. And as I experience life myself, I realized that I'm not, and that we all have our own stories.
Yeah.
And I became very passionate about sharing those, because that was huge for me to realize that I'm not alone. And so being able to do what I love, which is songwriting, but still have that message go out of, we're all in this together, kind of. So I actually just quit my 8 to 5 job on December 30th and am full-time storytelling
Yay!
musician. So yeah.
How exciting. How exciting. So I'm sure when you're speaking with your clients and listening to their story, it can be pretty therapeutic for them.
Definitely. Yeah. I wasn't necessarily going into it with the intention of it being a therapeutic session,
Mhm.
but it really has evolved into that. And it's been really cool for people to feel like they can just really be themselves and feel safe to share um, their experiences and their stories.
Yeah. What kind of people have come to you that you've written songs for?
Well, so it started with one of my really good friends. So she is the first song on my first EP, Change Her. And I experienced her coming out. So I was best friends with her in high school. We both dated guys for a really long time. And then she ended up coming out in college, and it was a very hard, excuse me, it was a very hard experience for her. And so when I said, like, this is what I'm going to start doing, she was like, well, do you mind kind of sharing my story?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a really cool process. So she was my first one that I started writing about. And then I had a coworker who was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of watched her experience, and I actually didn't interview her. That one was more of a surprise. I mean, I started writing on my own based on what I was watching her experience it side by side, and then kind of pulled language that she kept repeatedly saying to me through that experience herself. And so it was really cool for her to hear the song for the first time. Like, I don't think she knew that was going to happen, but it's I mean, and then I also wrote a very simple love song. My husband was like, hey, I want you to write about how, like, I love you. And so I wrote about his story, and his perspective of how we started dating and things. So they're not always life changing
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. I mean, it's any and all um, stories, really.
Hey, gang, cutting in on this conversation real quick to tell you about my friends at The New Primal. I love this company not only because they make Whole30 approved sauces and meat sticks with just clean ingredients, but because of their mission of returning to the table. You know, food really does bring people together, and with all of our busy lives, it's hard to sit down to a meal together with your own family and your other loved ones. But the new Primal is really focused on community and bringing people together around food. And why not do that with clean ingredients? I use their classic marinade weekly. Their mustard barbecue is the perfect dipping sauce, and their ketchup as well. My kids love all their different spicy buffalo sauces as well. And like I said, their meat sticks are Whole30 approved, so I always have some in my handbag or in my glove compartment in my car if I need a quick emergency snack. So head over to thenewprimal.com and you can use the code EmilyNichols22 to receive 15% off your order. So remember, go to newprimal.com and let us know how you are returning to the table and connecting with others through food and the new Primal. So when you are done with the song, what's it like to present that to that person?
It's really cool. So when I did the My Rights EP, I had a release party where I just invited anybody and everybody. I invited everyone that I wrote about, their friends, their family, and we did like a live reveal of every one of the songs. And at the beginning, I kind of gave a snippet saying, like, this is about an individual who X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really cool to like see everyone kind of in the community all hear it. And it meant something. Like, although it was about one particular person, it really impacted everybody that was there, which was really cool. Really cool to see. And actually, it was very emotional for me. I had kind of a hard time performing live while watching their reactions. And so I got choked up a little bit, but
I can imagine.
yeah. But that was the first time that I did like a formal reveal.
Mm-hmm.
And then my most recent single, Love Is, I actually revealed the song to Tequila was who I wrote it about, and I actually revealed it to her and her family in her backyard. We did like a live show, and it was really cool to see that too. I think that's like one of my favorite parts, just because it's so nerve-wracking to like make sure that it's what they want to, because it is their story.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And so I think I'm always a little bit nervous before that reveal, but then seeing that is just, it's really undescribable. I mean, it makes it all worth it for me and makes the whole process very fulfilling.
Well, I think the interesting thing with music is it can connect a lot of people, and everyone has a different way of looking at a song or listening or hearing a song differently. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool, just you revealing that song for a certain person that you wrote it for, and everyone's different interpretations and feelings towards it. That's what I just love so much about music. It can divide people too, don't get me
Right. Oh,
wrong.
definitely. Definitely.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's definitely a sweet spot where it can really connect a lot of people though.
Right. It's really cool. That's been another really interesting aspect that, again, I didn't really go into it with the intention, but I've gotten comments from people in the community who have listened to different songs, and they're just like, this is what I'm going through right now, but this song really helped me get through it. And it was really cool to see that, because it's like, wow, it's a totally different story, totally different experience that they are going through, but it's crazy how music really can heal,
Yeah.
and how as a community it's like a trickling effect, which is really cool.
Yeah. Now, do some of your clients want the songs to be private and just for them?
Yeah, so I actually typically have two different packages. I have a public package, and then I have a private package.
Mm.
And so the private packages are usually include like birthdays, weddings, funerals, but some like a very specific song that they just want for themselves, that they don't want to go out into the world on Spotify, iTunes, and etc. So yeah, and those are really cool too. Those I feel like a little bit more pressure, just because typically they're a little bit more private.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah.
That's so cool. So I like to consider myself a pretty creative person, but I don't feel like I could ever sit down and write a song. Do you feel like being creative in this way is such a high form of self-care?
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like it's been my self-care practice, I feel like, my whole life, even as a child. I mean, I have songs that I remember I wrote when I was 10 that I still have, about being like, I was pitching in a softball game, and I was like writing lyrics on how nervous I was, and like if I was going to mess up. And so I think just being able to do what I love has definitely been a huge self-care aspect for me, and
Yeah.
has fueled my energy for sure.
Well, it's all about expressing your experiences and the way you feel. And when you write, do you do pen to paper or pencil to paper?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't think I could ever like type it out at first. I really just start writing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much value in writing something down, but especially if you're doing something so creative as writing a song, it just probably isn't the same effect if you're typing away on a computer.
Right. No, it really is not. It really is not. No.
Yeah. Where do you get a lot of your inspiration from? I mean, I know you'll sit down and talk to a client and kind of get their words and story, but where's the inspiration come to kind of put all the music together as well? Because that's a whole different next step.
Yeah. So after the interview, I really kind of highlight reoccurring themes that the client might be saying throughout the interview.
Hmm.
And so I'll really gather an idea of like, is this going where are they in their story? Is this a story that they've, and an experience that they went through and now they've overcome and they have kind of healed from it.
Mm.
That's a totally different song than someone who's experiencing it right now and hasn't really healed from it, is really hurting from it, or it's just like chaos, right? So I really get an idea at first of like, what is the message that they're trying and how are they feeling? And so that kind of determines, is it going to be a slower acoustic song? Is it going to be a ballad, a piano ballad? Is it going to be an upbeat, like overcome song that I would want to like work out to? And then from there, I try and pull words that they use themselves that express that overarching message.
Yeah.
And then kind of puzzle it together from there.
How long does it take you usually to write a whole song for someone?
It definitely varies, because sometimes I will get so much inspiration by hearing them going through what they're experiencing, and I might be experiencing that too. And so I'm just able to just spill out, because I'm like, well, what would I feel like if I was listening to this song? What would I want to get out of it right now? And then there's other times that it can be a little bit more challenging, and I have to go back through my notes, go back through my recordings over and over again and really put myself in their shoes. And that takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. Like you said, so much pressure, but the end result is all worth it for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
For sure. So you just left your 8 to 5 job.
I did. Yes.
Exciting. What's on the horizon for you? I know you'll be speaking at Linking Indie Women on March 18th, right?
Yes. March 18th. I actually just started my speaking series tour called The Story Starts With You. And so in January, I spoke at Ball State University. And then in March, I will be speaking at Linking Indie Women at the Hatch in Broad Ripple. And I'm really excited for this kind of offshoot of what I've been doing with music. Because the series is really focuses on overcoming fear as a whole. But it also kind of digs into how and why I became the storytelling musician. Because I kept getting a lot of feedback from people being like, well, what's your story and why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And so, so it's been fun to start speaking in the community a little bit more about my why.
Well, I think there's a lot of value in sharing your own story and how people can find, just like with music, their own similarities or find their own common denominator, or even just to be there to support someone as well is really, really important. And sometimes I think when you keep it all in, it's just not as powerful as, sharing that with people if you're ready for something like that.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So March 18th, I know I'm going to make sure to get my ticket as soon as they go up so I can come watch you speak. It's a free event and the tickets go so fast.
Yes. Yeah, they do. It's a free event. It's so cool to see all the women in the community come together and just be inspired by each other. Really cool networking event. So I'm really excited.
For sure. So I'll make sure to include a link in the show notes. But also, I want people to know where to find you and where to listen to your music. Where can we connect with you?
So you can find me at probably the easiest location where that's a one-stop shop would be my website. And so that's just bridimit.com. And then any and all social media, Bri Dimit. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And then feel free to also email me at bridimit@gmail.com. I'm really an open book and love just hearing from any and all people. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. I'm so excited about 2020 for you and what this year holds for you and what opportunities are going to come your way, Bri. This is so exciting.
Thanks.
I'm so excited
really
for you.
Excited.
Like I said, such an interesting perspective being a storytelling musician. And I think it's really unique, and I think it probably would really help a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That means a lot.
I appreciate you being on. Thanks, Bri.
Thanks.
I loved this conversation so much, and I hope you did too. Don't you want Bri to write a song for you now? I think that's so, so cool. So, Bri, thank you so much for sharing with us, and I hope everyone heads over to their favorite streaming platform and listens to your music now. So, as you all know, I always list my three biggest takeaways at the end of the show. So, here we go. Number one, we all have our own story, but we're not alone. I feel like there's so many different ways you can relate to other people just by sharing your story. Everyone's been through so many different experiences, and I feel like everyone can kind of find some type of similarities and relate to each other. So, don't be afraid to share your story and who you are. It's not just surface level stuff with your true friends. You really want to, it's great to dig deep and have real conversations and show that, hey, we've been maybe through some crappy things in our life, but look how we've overcome it. You may inspire someone else, or you may find that someone else has had a similar experience as you. So just own your story, be authentically you, and you'll find that, you really relate to a lot of other people. Number two, music connects us all. Music is such a high form of self care for me. And my love for music really grew as I became a fitness instructor because I would curate these playlists depending on the mood that I wanted the workout to be. Did I want it to be just like totally kick butt, like hardcore, like 90s rap, if you know what I'm talking about, playing and bumping? Or do I want something more inspirational and, taking them through a journey through their mindset while they're going through a workout? But also, as I'm just working throughout the day, I always have Spotify playing with some type of music depending on my mood for the day. Lately, I've been feeling a lot of Casey Musgraves. I love her. But music connects us all. Like I mentioned in the episode, if you find someone that loves like the same artist as you do, like I love Justin Timberlake. If you know me, I'm obsessed with him. But, and it also can disconnect you from people if they're like, I hate JT, you weirdo. But I think music can connect a lot of people, but I also feel like it can be such a high form of self-care. It can really, bring your mood up. I love doing kitchen dance parties with my kids while I'm cooking dinner every night. So tonight, while you're cooking dinner, I want you to maybe pull up a playlist and find some music that helps make you feel amazing and inspires you depending on the mood you're in that day. But music is such a high form of self-care, and it does connect us all. And my last big takeaway is to find ways to be creative. Being creative is such a high form of self-care. We did a live event a few months ago, where we went to a local place that does like the painting on the boards and whatnot, and created a board where you could put a self-care checklist on it. And it was so fun to get creative and paint. And y'all, I am not a very artistic person at all, but it was still fun and a great way to use maybe more so the right side of my brain. But, taking pen to paper, since we're so technology focused right now, is really important. It really, really is, in such a high form of self-care. So maybe I think even journaling can be a way to be creative. So just sitting down and just writing down whatever comes to mind, and if some negative thoughts come into mind, replacing them with positive thoughts instead. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation today with Bri. Make sure to go check out her music. Maybe you should listen to her tonight while you're cooking dinner. And, her new single, Do It Afraid. That would be a great way to get started. And don't forget about my new self-care coaching service. I'm so excited to be able to offer this to you all and start sharing some testimonials and maybe some live coaching on the podcast as well, so you can hear the strategies I go through with my clients to help them curate a customized and sustainable self-care routine. Don't forget to check out the show notes so you can connect with Bri and myself. You can follow me at Emily Nichols22 or at Self Care Isn't Selfish Podcast. And I would love it if you would leave a rating and review. It makes it so much easier for everyone to find the show. So thanks again, Bri. I loved this conversation. I'm going to go put on some tunes and go about throughout my day and feel creative and just own it. So thanks again for listening, everybody. And remember, self-care isn't selfish. Bye.